It's the final one. I can't believe we're here. 20 shows, 40 guests. I think just over 12 weeks of doing these lunchtime lives. For the final time, we're going to be saying hello to our guests in just a second and broadcasting live on the Digital Beans YouTube channel. So I suppose the first thing to say is, of course, we're going to be making more content. We've got loads of new content coming out, and we're changing our focus slightly as well with the content we're producing and the people we're talking to. So please hit that subscribe button, because you're going to get loads of marketing help, loads of marketing tricks and tips and tricks, especially within the digital world, website help, and we'll also be speaking to more inspirational people and hearing about their stories and being able to provide you guys with an insight and maybe some positivity around the times at the moment, which we're all finding extremely tough. So more information on that soon. Make sure you hit subscribe. Also, make sure you're following at Digital Beans UK on Twitter as well, because that's where we'll keep you updated. But talking about inspirational guests, we had to go out with a bang today, so we're going to. On the show today, we've got Sally Newall, who is the managing director at Simply Ice Cream. Sally has been involved with catering businesses for over 20 years now, which was in fact the springboard for the leap into the ice cream business, wasn't it, Sally? So welcome along to the show. Simply Ice Cream, maybe some of the most delicious ice cream I've ever eaten in my life. It's great to have you with us. How's everything going?
It's okay. It's okay. We obviously in March, when it all kicked off, we furloughed all our staff, because within that first week, literally all our customers were like, we're going to have to close. We don't know what we're doing. We've probably got about 70% of our customer base closed, but actually the retailers, 30% that are open, have been really busy. So we have actually kept going throughout the whole thing.
Oh, that's amazing. No, it's good to hear that you've managed to keep some stability. We'll talk about how you managed to make that happen and how you've managed to keep things ticking along, so to speak, as well during these times. So I'm sure people would be interested to find out and dig into the past as well. But before we do, I also want to say hello to Annabelle Cox, who's the director at Dunk Cookies. Over the past 12 months, Dunk Cookies have seen incredible growth. I mean, they've gone from making their first order to becoming an award-winning business, and now they own their own factory, which is coming soon. I mean, Annabelle, with so many business owners having tough times right now, when you announce that you've actually now got the keys to your factory and you've purchased a factory for your business, I mean, that's amazing news to see during these times.
No, I mean, it's really exciting. I think for me, it was, looking back on the last few months, I suppose it would be really easy to be scarred by everything that's happened, because everyone's had sort of a difficult time in one way or another. But yeah, moving forward, it's just, let's not be scarred and let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said it's a bit different for you owning a factory. What have you managed to do potentially in this time to sort of get yourself on track?
I mean, a lot of walls have come down. Well, there's a lot of obviously practical stuff that's involved, but a lot of it is planning. It's, you want to get in there and start making from day one. So, I mean, there's so many different pieces, and obviously getting staff in as well, making sure they're all trained up. So, currently I'm working from a home premise. So it's managing all of that from home and then somehow creating a very smooth transition, I hope, to the factory when it opens next month.
I can imagine. Again, can't wait to dig into that with you. But before we start, I suppose, having a chitter chatter, I want to. I shared this slightly with you before, Sally. I've got a bit of a surprise for you. So I had Amy, who is one of the directors at Digital Beans and also runs Simply Hair, who's under the Bamboo Group umbrella. Come to me and go, do you want to be let into a little secret about someone who appeared in a Simply Ice Cream advertisement back in 2012? And I went, oh, go on then. What is it? And she sent me this. So I don't know if you can remember this, Sally, but I'm going to share it now. You had this. It looks like a review image to sort of push out people who are endorsing your ice cream. And on there you've got. Is that James Martin? Is that James Martin? James Martin.
Yeah, no, it was.
The famous James Martin.
Yeah, we did. Very early on, we did a television program up in Hackney. And James Martin was on that.
Now there's an endorsement. I love that. You've got Inside Kent as well. Great publication. Murray's General Store. You've got the Great Taste Awards 2011 judging panel. Then somehow RMD Pip Harris has ended up not once but twice on this image here with Love Your Ice Cream.
There we go.
Look at that. There's an endorsement there. from actual Pip Harris, the MD of Digital Beans. Look at that, and Simply, yeah, that's incredible. And also what I love about this is you can't see it, but I have been told that was about your brown bread ice cream as well.
Yeah,
so there you go.
There you go. That's not one's taste, but it is very popular in London.
Yes, and talking about that, and talking about obviously the current times in your different flavors. Obviously, you produce a whole range of ice creams, and I know a lot of your ice creams. Obviously, within the summer, you'd have them stocked in different outlets, whether that's a kiosk, a retail store. I mean, it's a bit different for you at the moment, isn't it? Because there's a lot. I take it a lot of orders that aren't sort of there. Maybe you've had to down your orders as well in terms of what you can produce. So I suppose it'd be nice to get a little bit of an insight as to what actions you've had to take as a business, more moving forward than in the past.
Yeah. So I suppose I mean, for us, our food service has disappeared. So things like the theatres, the cinemas, the ice cream parlours, and I mean, this week actually we've seen a few come back on board, which is lovely. And I think sort of going forward, we're going to have to sort of monitor how that pans out. I think sort of there are I think the restrictions that are in place are potentially going to mean that their sort of turnover is going to probably halve, if not more so than that. But I think for us, at the moment, the retailers are doing really, really well. They're probably ordering 3 or 4 times what they normally do. So I think the whole sort of Help Kent Buy Local campaign has been amazing. And that has definitely sort of signposted people towards their local farm shop or local independent store. And I think if we can carry on that momentum, it'll be amazing. Because I think, if we can just keep 30% of those customers coming into their local offering, we can really help the Kent economy get back on its feet.
Yeah, how important are campaigns like Help Kent Buy Local, and how important is it for people right now to support their local businesses?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's paramount, really, I think, for the recovery. And I mean, Producing Kent are doing the most incredible job sort of getting that message out there. And I think, sort of, if we can, I think we're sort of linking in with Visit Kent and various other organisations. And I think if we can carry on doing that for the next sort of year or so to see us through this period, I think things become a habit. So I think it's 16 weeks you have to do something before it becomes a habit. And so hopefully on the back of that, these people will carry on buying local. I think they've seen quality and the range of and Kent as a sort of landscape has the most incredible amount of producers who do make incredible food. So it's worth following us, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also I think the amount of work, time and effort that also goes in by local business owners like yourself, especially within the food industry, it's all handmade, isn't it? And it's all produced right here in our county, which is an important thing to know, because sometimes people think that because it's got a brand on it, it's coming from somewhere else, if you know what I mean. If it's an established brand, even locally, people still think that stuff's completely outsourced. Well, obviously with you guys as well, all handmade in Kent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I mean, that actually for us is a really difficult message to get across as well, because I think, when you say ice cream to someone, they automatically assume they know exactly what ice cream tastes like. So for us, our sort of difficulty has always been sort of getting that out there and making sure they actually taste it, so they can understand the difference. And I think, with artisan producers across the board, that's what we need to do. And so the sort of local farm shops and delis are offering that possibility. I think, there's a lot of people that have sort of bought foods that they would never normally have discovered if we hadn't had COVID. So that's a positive.
And long may it continue as well, 100%. And again, like you've done there, Sally, I do just want to emphasise that. Shout out to the guys at Produced in Kent and Visit Kent, who are doing amazing work at the moment, and also the Kent Foundation too, who I know are also helping businesses out to really, really steer them in the right direction for help, but also to be able to expand their consumer, their target audience, and to be able to go out and get these people to come in. They're doing some brilliant work. Annabelle, I mean, we hit on it at the start. You guys are expanding massively at the moment. I think we have to go back to, we started 2019 we mentioned it before, the Kent Foundation A Blast event. And I think it was our videographer Jack's first day, and they took the camera down and Pip came down and saw the stands, and Dunk Cookies stood out massively to us. And I remember afterwards saying, that's a brand we've all got to watch out for, because this has the potential to really grow. And I don't think anyone, not even yourself in your wildest dreams, could have imagined that growth happening in 12 to 18 months like it has.
Absolutely not. I mean, you know, that specific event was, I remember it was very sort of make, do, and mend. I think I started, you know, developing the recipes in January, and that event was March, I think. So no, I couldn't imagine. Like, I set goals for myself, obviously, but I always had, you know, two priorities, and that was create a really good, high quality product that people are going to, you know, want to talk about and come back for, and just really focus on the customers. They are my number one priority, sort of now and moving forward. Sort of all sort of the other business goals that I have aside, that's always been my priority, and to sort of very much nurture that relationship. You know, especially selling direct to consumers, you know, they can't go into a supermarket, they can't taste test anything before they buy it. They've got to really trust me, the brand that I've created, before they buy. You know, it's not necessarily like an impulse purchase. And then they've got to, you know, when you're starting out, you don't have a marketing budget, so you just got to hope that they love it enough that they talk about it, and so forth and so forth. So yeah, really focusing on that, I think, has definitely helped the growth of Dunk over the last year, definitely.
I think also what's massively important as well is that you've got a product here that also has potential of virality. So any content you put out to it, it's a very much a product which people can look at and go, oh, I'd love to do that. Like that seems like a bit of fun as well. And I think that's what's really cool with Dunk, and has probably helped when it comes to building that brand awareness.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's I always say it's the whole experience. I think so much of our snacking is really subconscious, and we don't really know we're doing it. We're just watching TV and munching on some cookies or whatever. But I want this to be, you know, you get your box through the post, you sit down with your mum, your friend, whatever, and you can really enjoy that experience. And, you know, it's a totally customizable product. You can choose all the flavors that you want. So it feels, I hope that it feels really special, and that you're not only sharing it with other people, but you're sharing it with people close to you. So it's definitely sort of buying into that experience, that very positive experience, hopefully.
I'm just saying, a Dunk Cookies Simply Ice Cream flavour would not go down amiss. Could you imagine that as a team up? Come on, guys.
Definitely. I'm such a fan of Simply Ice Cream. I'm not saying that because Sally's here, but I really am.
I mean, if this happens through Let's Do Lunch, can we claim commission? Is that allowed?
Some freebies.
Yeah, some freebies at least. I just want to roll the clock back slightly, Annabelle, in terms of talking about where you're at now. Obviously, you've got a product here that you also sell quite a lot through e-commerce, and obviously e-commerce helps you sell your products. And it's going to nicely link into what I'm going to chat to Sally about in a minute. Do you feel like you maybe had a head start going into lockdown by already having that e-commerce function there set up for you, the brand awareness of the fact that people need to order your product through a website? Do you feel like that might have actually helped you on your road to being able to actually continue some sort of normality within your business?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I started Dunk, I thought I would be doing events, festivals, that kind of thing. And I was doing a little bit of e-commerce. But I did switch to really focus on e-commerce quite quickly. So I think, yes, it helped that I was set up, and I'm really grateful for that and being in that position. But it was interesting with the market as well, because suddenly you see this kind of huge increase in demand, which is obviously a lovely positive thing. But then I didn't also necessarily, yes, I had the website, and yes, I was already selling, but sort of the infrastructure wasn't really set up. You know, the website started to crash with all the visitors that we were getting. I didn't have all the stockists that I needed, the courier service, all of that. So it did, yes, we had that, and that was brilliant, but it did sort of force us to work, you know, much smarter, much quicker to kind of keep up with that demand. Particularly when we're looking at kind of a customer experience, it was quite, because I can only produce so much from where I'm at now. It was quite difficult to keep up with demand sort of pre-lockdown. Afterwards, you know, my regular customers who buy quite frequently, they couldn't get hold of anything. and their experience with Dunk, I think there were challenges, and I would see my competitors, customers who would regularly buy from me would then buy from competitors because they couldn't buy from me because it was becoming too difficult with websites crashing and whatnot. So, and there's only sort of so long that you can keep that relationship going and say, oh, stick with me. And people want to, like, the support for local and small businesses has been incredible. I'm so grateful for it. But it's sort of kind of why we've got to the point of having a factory is, I don't want to keep saying, oh, just stick with me. I have to do something to really nurture those customers that have been with me for 12 months. And I started to see that I was really starting to lose some people. So yes, definitely positives, but a lot of streamlining and
Yeah, obviously a good problem to have in some ways, but also a very stressful problem to have. We had Sian from Fudge Kitchen on this time last week, and she was very honest in saying that actually they saw a 400 to 500% growth in e-commerce orders. And she said, although that sounds like a really attractive number and a great number, and obviously you'd rather have business than have no business, adapting to that is one of the hardest things she's had to do within a business. So it has its challenges. Sally, obviously a big challenge for you guys was obviously, I can imagine there was a point of where retail business either drastically decreased or stopped to a point potentially, especially for stuff like if you were in attractions, maybe there was a side of the business that obviously saw a decrease. So I know you guys, because you've been working with us on your local delivery, decided to see if you could go straight to consumer. What has that been like? What sort of made you want to go, right, okay, we need to see if we can actually go direct to consumer now here?
Well, I mean, what became very apparent quite quickly with lockdown is that people weren't happy about going out at all. Our issue was that because we supply predominantly into retail with food service outlets, and obviously the theatres and things had all closed, along with the pubs and the cafes, the ice cream parlours, so all our seasonal attractions had all closed. So we were literally supplying the farm shops and deli and independents. They also launched a delivery package, and so we didn't want to take their business from them because they are our customers ideally, but we did find that an awful lot of people were ringing and saying, we are self-isolating, we don't want to go out, our local outlet isn't delivering ice cream because obviously they're not particularly set up to deliver frozen, whereas we are. So we did think, okay, we can start doing a little bit. I think we're still quite reticent about doing too much because we don't want to take that business from the retailers because they are our business. But it has become quite apparent that actually there probably is some mileage in B2C for us because we have the frozen delivery vehicles, which, a lot of the concepts and things don't. And I think also we have plans at the moment where we're actually looking at extending the reach for Simply Ice Cream outside of the counters that we supply, with a sort of franchise distribution model, and that will have a B2C aspect to it as well. So I think for us, setting up, we had a sort of gift shop with our crockery range already on the website, although again, we're not terribly good at promoting all these sort of extras that we do. And the ice cream the your local delivery thing has been amazing, and we've been really surprised because we haven't really promoted it as we should. But with sort of, as I say, I'm slightly hesitant because I don't want to upset the retailers.
Of course, yeah. No, of course. And that makes sense. And I also think that what also has made sense is you were one of the first to come to us and go, look, because we are normally a B2B and not necessarily always a B2C when it comes to having an e-commerce store, we need to productize this. So we need to make sure that actually there's a minimum order value, because otherwise, like you say there, it takes away as well. That's another thing to not take away from those local farm shops, right? So instead they're ordering more bulk products from you, which also makes the delivery more worthwhile, aspect of it more worthwhile for you guys, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think, initially when we first set up the site with you, we were actually getting inquiries from all over the UK, which it was great to see because we need that sort of knowledge if we're going to sort of take it out further. But I think for us, we were sort of adding it on to our retailer deliveries. So for our driver to sort of then do lots and lots of individual B2C drops isn't really viable long term. So I think, sort of at the moment we're sort of assessing the viability, and potentially we can get a little van and a man who will go out and do those drops going forward. But, so we just have to sort of work with it for the moment and see how it builds.
Yeah, it's adapting, isn't it? It's adapting to the new normal. And talking about adapting to the new normal, I think actually we'll stay with you for a second, Sally. What does that look like for your business? I mean, we're having conversations here from a business development point of view about what we do with our content to be conversational and talk to people and help inspire the types of businesses that we're championing, not just in-house as Digital Beans, but also outside when we're talking to people and we're trying to help them. How do we make sure that small businesses and SMEs in the local area, but up and down the UK, can have the resources like the big businesses have, so they're not left out, so that they're able to actually push and still scale their business during these really, really challenging times? Have you had conversations in-house about what you do now with a potential B2C element? Have you been talking about, where you go with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, our plans actually, we in March we had almost signed on the dotted line to move the factory into a much bigger space and off-site, because we've worked within our domestic setting for the last 15 years. We have, our house now looks like an industrial site, but we have sort of developed it as we've gone along, and it's worked really well. I have 4 children, and that enabled me to be a mother, sort of full-time, as well as running a business. I think, sort of moving off-site, we will need to look at, sort of creating greater income to support the move, because at the moment, obviously, we don't have rent to pay. And I see the B2C element of that as something that we will look at. The site that we looked at initially also had a shop front, so that was quite interesting. We've never done that before, but that was a possibility. And the new site that we're looking at going forward, because obviously we lost the old site when COVID hit and we had to pull out, that also has potential to have a farm shop on site. So I think, we are looking at sort of lots of different options, and also adding to our range. So, we're actually introducing a vegan ice cream in a couple of months' time.
Nice.
Going forward, we might also add a range of lollies, but working with other artisan producers that, it's sort of things like Pip Organic, and I'm working with another girl at the moment on her new product. So that's quite exciting. So I think
that sounds great.
Yeah, lots going on, and I think, as a small business, you just have to keep going. It's a bit like when Brexit hit. Sort of. I think I was misquoted in a paper saying I supported Brexit. I didn't support Brexit, but what I said was that we are now in this situation, and small businesses are the backbone of the economy, and we will have to adapt and just accept this is what's happening and just get on with it. So.
Yeah.
And I think COVID is another example of that. There's nothing we can do about it. We just have to work with it and work through it.
Yeah, and we've all got to stick together, as you say. And their collaboration is also important. Hey, just throwing that out there, then Dunk lollies. We're expanding this idea now. You can make your own fabs at home. You get the 100,000s. You get the. I'll tell you what, guys. I tell you what. I mean, this is an incredible show. It's creating business opportunities. I tell you. If anyone nicks that idea, by the way, it's now copyrighted.
I was going to say, you need to come work for me then.
We've got all the ideas. Annabelle, I mean, it's really interesting. We're talking about future business plans, and obviously I think at the start of this, we spoke quite openly about the fact that your long-term goals are still there. It's how you adapt in the meantime to reach those long-term goals, and adaptation has to be made. And obviously you guys have gone forward during these tough times, and obviously signed for a new factory. You've gone in, you've jumped in, you've obviously done it. But I take it that was part of a long-term business plan, and now you're looking at ways you can adapt that, right, to make sure that it can all fit in together.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was always a plan. I was looking at various units kind of pre-lockdown. But I think if it's taught me anything, it's, the last few months, it's not to rely on a single arm, which is very much, what I have been doing. It's all been B2C. So I definitely think sort of once we're in the factory, and, that will always be kind of our priority. but I also want to look at other different streams as well, whether that's creating like a retail ready product or focusing more on sort of events, weddings, that kind of thing. So I definitely want to sort of expand the different ways you can get Dunk Cookies, and having the factory is going to be a huge, huge help.
We're planning me and my fiance are planning our wedding at the moment, and oh my god, a Dunk cookie stand at the wedding. Now there is an idea. She's gluten free though, so she's difficult.
But we can create, but like Sally said, like it gives us the opportunity to create new products as well, because we don't currently have a gluten-free offering, but having that space will allow us to do that and create vegan options as well. So
it's all down the line. Yeah, and that's what I love. You know, obviously, as you say, by getting the factory, you're giving yourselves the opportunity to expand on what you've got at the moment. And Sally's hinted on it as well with simply looking at a new site. I mean, Annabelle, in terms of jumping forward and moving forward, have you internally thought about sort of where you go, where that growth is now? Have you had to change your original plans, or are you changing the way you get there, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's just changing the way we get there. Like I said, direct to consumer will always be the focus. So it's just not taking our eye off the ball, and just prioritizing those customers. I know I've said it before, but it's so important, and their experience. And, you know, basically the business was built on social media, which, you know, is incredible because it's automatic feedback. I know exactly what my customers are thinking, how they feel about the product. And, you know, it's just always listening to all of that feedback and putting all of that, funneling that into sort of the future plans, I suppose.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got one more question for each of you. Sadie, I'll come over to you first. We hit on the help Kent buy local and the importance of buying local. But what about local businesses then within the hospitality sector? Obviously, we're seeing now restaurants and pubs being able to reopen to a point. We're seeing that, like your local delivery, there's different ways to target consumers. But for you at the moment, are you still slightly concerned about the help out there? Do you think that bounce back is going to be extremely tough for the hospitality sector over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain sectors within it. I think, you know, sort of at the moment, the pubs and things can have an outside space, which is fine. But once the weather turns, I think for us, you know, we're certainly looking at sort of September, October as potentially our problem area. We supply a lot of theatres, so Panto season isn't happening this year. And, you know, sort of although they can open open air at the moment, they, you know, going forward, I don't know what's going to happen with them. You know, we as general public, we as consumers, we have to support the pubs and restaurants that are opening back up. But I know, you know, having spoken to some of them, you know, if they're only allowed to have sort of 60-70% of their actual customer base in, you know, that covers their costs. It doesn't give them any profit margin, so it doesn't give them any wiggle room if something goes wrong, or they don't have as many consumers in that week as they did the previous week. So I think, you know, it is going to be tough for the next year or 18 months until we either get a vaccine or something, you know, sort of calms down.
Have you been contacted by any drive-in cinemas yet?
No, we'd love to supply drive-in cinemas, but again, you see, I mean, it's so weather dependent. And, you know, for us, you know, so we've had no events this week. I mean, I still run the catering business as well, so we've had all of that cancelled this year. So it's an interesting year. Yes,
very interesting year, and we can only hope that we can all bounce back sooner rather than later. And Annabelle, a slightly different question for you, I suppose. E-commerce, obviously, we've all seen a little bit of a boom. How long is that boom potentially going to be sustainable for? Are you thinking that there'll be obviously a drop now, or do you think it will continue to grow and grow?
I'm pretty confident it's going to continue. I don't necessarily know whether it will grow or not, but I think the support that we've seen over the last few months, I can't imagine that will just suddenly disappear. You know, it has meant that, like I said, the market's becoming more saturated. There's more, you know, people have been at home. They've been, you know, creating goods from their home and selling them online. And there's definitely a lot more competition for that demand. But speaking just for myself, you've just got to focus on the quality and hope that your customers can see that. and yeah, that you can supply demand, I suppose. But I don't feel like it's going to go away. The sense of community and support for small businesses is just, it's almost like maybe reignited something in people, that they want to support people buy from people. So yeah, I feel pretty confident moving forward.
I also completely agree with what Sally said earlier in terms of the mentality. Not a lot of people want to go out to shops, and I think until we know that the world is COVID safe, I still think there's going to be hesitancy. But either way, as you mentioned earlier on, it takes 16 weeks to have a habit. You know, it's been more than 16 weeks since we've had to change our consumer purchasing styles to making sure that they're mostly online. So I think that now it's just going to become a habit, e-commerce. I think it's going to be so natural that it's just going to have to be the way for the majority of businesses. And it's also going to be interesting to see how B2B companies adapt their way of doing things in terms of if they've got a product, you know, will they start bulk selling products in a shop way potentially to businesses instead of just generating leads? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting 12 months. But all I can say to yourself, Sally and Annabelle, is I really, really hope, you know, that the bounce back is easier than the fall that we've had over the past few weeks, and you guys continue to grow because you've both got fantastic businesses, and it's been amazing hearing your stories and your pointers as well. Just quickly, Sally, before we finish the show off, do you want to tell people where they can find you potentially and where they can go and order in some ice cream as well?
Okay. So, we're found in farm shops, delis, and independents throughout the southeast. We're also in Waitrose, Co-op, and Southern Co-ops, and Morrison's.
Perfect. Thank you, Sally. Brilliant. Thank you for that. And Annabelle, where can people go and grab a load of Dunk Cookies?
So yeah, all online. So dunkcookies.co.uk. But follow us on social as well at Dunk Cookies UK, Facebook, Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. You know where we are if you need our support as well from the digital side of things. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching Let's Do Lunch over the past 14 weeks, 12 weeks. I can't even remember now. I've lost my head. I can't even remember what happened on show 1. But thank you guys for watching. We've got loads of amazing content on the way. So make sure you hit subscribe. And if I can talk, I will see you guys in a little while. Make sure you keep following us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and also on Twitter as well. For now, though, thank you for watching Let's Do Lunch. Stay safe, take it easy, and goodbye.